Patrick Star can quickly become Fatrick Star whenever he wants to. One day, he's your lovable goof that somehow always finds a way to make you laugh. The next day, he's the source of some of the most catastrophic events in Bikini Bottom. Now, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say 50% of the crises that happen on this show are Patrick's fault, and somehow, he's always getting away with it. That's why I really can't stress enough the fact that we only get a few episodes where Patrick actually gets what he deserves. And I saved the best for last. It might not be much, but boy oh boy, does it ever feel good when it happens.
Wow, you guys are good. I'm the last person I would have suspected, but I was...
So Patrick is a character that I would consider to be chaotic neutral. He's pretty lightheaded, your dumb, easygoing friend that never really thinks too much. And most of the time, that's kind of where his charm comes from. He always has his own way to interpret things, and because he rarely thinks twice while he's at it, he just says whatever's on his mind.
Is this the Krusty Krab?
No, this is Patrick.
To his credit, he rarely does anything out of spite or with malicious intent. Well, at least in the earlier seasons. However, since he's not running on the same wavelength as most people, he often does pretty much everything the wrong way, even though his intent is good. One of the best examples of this is Suds. So, one time, SpongeBob leaves the fridge door open for the whole night after some midnight snacking. Now, this causes the whole house to be frozen the next morning. And because he's only wearing his underwear and shoes while he's sleeping in front of the open freezer, he catches a cold, or suds. But that, of course, wasn't enough to stop him from going to work, since he's an exemplary fry cook, after all. Even though he can't do anything at all in the end, since he can't stop sneezing bubbles every few seconds. So, after going back home again, he calls Sandy to accompany him to a doctor for some treatment. But before Sandy can arrive at Conch Street, Patrick shows up at his front door. He says, "Oh, you can't go to the doctor because I know a guy who knows a guy who went to the doctor once and says it's a horrible place." What makes it horrible, you might ask? Well, because according to the man, a doctor has a stethoscope that feels cold when it touches your chest. And worst of all,
they make you read old magazines!
Yet somehow that's enough to convince SpongeBob to cancel his trip to the doctor? See, this is what I meant by Patrick causing problems even though he doesn't have bad intentions. He only said this because he simply doesn't want his close friend to have a horrible time, which is noble. But the problem lies in the fact that he doesn't even know what a doctor is. I don't even think he understands why it's horrible. Reading old magazines and getting a cold stethoscope, that's horrible? You know what? I think the friend that tells this doctor story is just a kid because kids seem to hate those things for whatever reason. I know at least I did. So when the kid says it's horrible, Patrick just believes it's horrible despite not really understanding any of it. Then again, even though Patrick is stupid, he's really a kind friend to SpongeBob because he's more than willing to go to great lengths to become SpongeBob's personal doctor to cure the suds. Again, even though he doesn't know how to do it. He tries to clog every single one of SpongeBob's holes at first. But of course, that doesn't really cure him. Now SpongeBob is just getting bigger every time he sneezes. Then he tries to make a peanut butter sandwich with SpongeBob's feet, which is nasty. He tries to pull out one of SpongeBob's teeth and then tries to perform some sort of medieval torture.
Uh-oh, it's Sandy.
Anyway, Sandy finally arrives and tries to grab SpongeBob, but Patrick still wouldn't let her. So they get into a bit of a chasing scene, which ends up with a big explosion at the Krusty Krab. And they did end up going to the doctor in the end, and guess what? None of that horrible stuff actually happens. SpongeBob only gets a sponge treatment, where Hans basically uses him as a kitchen sponge to watch everything, and now he's Gucci again. And he even gets a lollipop. But now that Patrick sees SpongeBob get a lollipop, his gluttonous ass wants one too. So he said he also had suds, to which the doctor said he has a starfish treatment.
This doesn't seem right!
He really deserved that. But actually, Patrick did get a horrible experience at the doctor, so maybe his fears weren't all wrong. He still deserved it after what he did to SpongeBob. It's not a noble thing to keep someone sick, preventing them from getting proper medical treatment. Even more so by performing medieval torture. At the end of the day, Patrick gets his comeuppance simply by greedily wanting that lollipop, which coincidentally connects to another trait of Patrick's, impulsiveness. You see, it's not rare for Patrick to straight up want something without ever thinking about the risk. He has that go big or go home kind of energy about him. Mostly it's about food, but another time, it was a trophy. Big Pink Loser is another classic SpongeBob episode that highlights Patrick's double-edged character. One day he saw SpongeBob had a room full of trophies for all of his achievements. And of course, now Patrick wants one too. You gotta remember, Patrick doesn't understand the concept of achievement. He doesn't understand that a trophy is just physical proof for someone that they've successfully done something great enough. Maybe a sport or a contest, or maybe being the best employee of the month, which is SpongeBob's specialty. He just wants it because it's shiny. Nevertheless, SpongeBob explains that to get an award, you gotta do something.
Fireman?
The smallest you can think of.
A job at the Krusty Krab?
Yeah!
Krusty Krab it is then. Throughout the episode, Patrick never really learns what it's all about. All he did was do any task SpongeBob told him in the wrong way and then ask, "Do I get an award now?" every single time. It doesn't stop there though, because now we see SpongeBob receive yet more awards from the mailman, and that made him even more fuming mad. Not only is he not getting any awards, he makes the situation worse at the Krusty Krab by eating a customer's order, yelling at a customer over the phone, and then clapping dust that suffocates everyone trying to eat. He did learn something that day though. It's that if you want to do something worthy of an award, maybe it's best to learn from someone exemplary, like SpongeBob. Unfortunately, he didn't do it in a good way. Because now Patrick is just trying to become like SpongeBob down to every single little detail. He wears the same uniform, talks and walks the same way, and basically copies everything SpongeBob does at the Krusty Krab.
Until I have as many awards as you.
We'll see about that!
No, we won't!
What's crazy is that SpongeBob actually tries to make him understand how annoying he is by doing a bit of a reversal on him. He's cosplaying as Patrick and yells that, "I love being myself and not trying to copy SpongeBob." But then Patrick gets offended by it, saying, "What's so great about being a big fat loser?" Like, how do you get irritated by someone trying to copy you for 1 minute, but not realize how annoying you are for the whole day to SpongeBob? Luckily, it all finally ends when Patrick gets his own award for doing nothing longer than anyone else.
For doing absolutely nothing longer than anyone else, Patrick!
At least everything did end well. SpongeBob managed to get rid of Patrick from following him, and Patrick is satisfied with the award. How is it deserved, you say? It's in the joke itself. Patrick gets an award for doing nothing. Nothing! That proves he's still never learned what achievement is about, and was satisfied with the trophy itself. That label of doing nothing longer than anyone else serves as proof and a reminder that you are not SpongeBob, and you never will be. In other words, know your place and leave the yellow guy alone. Well, the result might not be punishment in this case, but it's the equivalent of giving him a big sign saying, "I am lazy and dumb," to shame him. The thing is, Patrick is still happy with it. So, yeah, deserved, but still not satisfying for us. By the way, speaking of being an opportunist, I think Gone from Season 6 also falls into that category as well, right? Like, Patrick goes along with everyone leaving SpongeBob alone in Bikini Bottom for a few weeks to celebrate the National No SpongeBob Day, practically pushing SpongeBob to the edge and almost making him lose his mind in the process. That is so effed up and cruel at the same time. I understand the sense if it came from someone like, I don't know, Mrs. Puff or Plankton or Squidward or any of the other regular fish in the city. It does get a bit tiring to hear SpongeBob's laugh every single day. But Patrick? Come on. yours is just as annoying, if not more than SpongeBob. And even if it's not, you're his best friend, man. You're supposed to be the one telling everybody not to do it. Or maybe, just don't go with them and stay with SpongeBob instead. But no. He doesn't even care and goes along with it. He sees a chance to have a bit of quick fun and he takes it. Luckily, he got what he deserved just as quickly because of his own stupidity for suggesting everyone also celebrate National No Patrick's Day. Again, Patrick doesn't even seem bothered by it. He doesn't even understand what he just did. But you know what? Give it a few weeks. Maybe he'll go spiraling like SpongeBob. See how much Patrick could be a menace to SpongeBob just simply by not understanding empathy or common knowledge in general? One thing's for sure, the big reason why he never thinks about the risks is because he has nothing to lose. He doesn't have a job or any status to uphold. So imagine what could happen if he held some kind of authority. Well, guess what? It's rule of dumb. In the episode, a starfish from the royal ministry comes knocking at the door and claims that Patrick has royal blood, which is definitely a welcome surprise for Patrick. Now, to be fair, the man didn't even bother to explain how nobility works or what it means to be part of a royal family. The man just gave Patrick a crown and bid him farewell. That's why it doesn't surprise me when Patrick just goes ham in the episode. He starts demanding everything from everyone for free just because he's part of the royal family. Patrick took a Krabby Patty, trading cards, a toilet plunger, even a baby pacifier that is still used because, why not? And let's not forget about how Patrick demands SpongeBob to sort everything out for him. He wants something, SpongeBob has to ask and get yelled at for it. Someone like Squidward gets mad at him because he ruined his home. SpongeBob's the one that has to talk with him and get clapped for it. At this point, he doesn't even consider SpongeBob to be a friend anymore, because now SpongeBob is nothing more to him than a royal servant. Even though he doesn't get put behind bars in the end, which I think he should, he did get enlisted as Gary's guard at the end of the episode, which I think he should do for the rest of his life. However, I think he still got some deserved karma for his actions. That's one of the worst things that could happen to an unjust ruler, a schizophrenic episode. It really is one of the worst feelings to realize you're starting to lose your mind once everyone leaves you alone. Not that I ever experienced it, nor do I wish to. I only wish that this part of the episode could last longer. Maybe because it made Patrick really lose his mind, like what SpongeBob went through and gone. Because even though he did get what he deserved, technically, it still doesn't feel like enough proportionally. You know, I just realized one of the big reasons why Patrick is rarely called out is also because of SpongeBob. More often than not, SpongeBob just accepts whatever Patrick did to him, even though he took it with a heavy heart. Not to mention the number of times he had to cover for Patrick's actions. I mean, he's always been that kind of person, too scared to yell at someone. Even something as simple as calling out Patrick when he does some really horrendous stuff. I really like when SpongeBob is at the end of his composure and starts yelling. It does add a lot more to his character. And he did a lot of yelling at Patrick in Stuck in the Ringer. But that's not even close to enough. Patrick somehow still manages to play the victim card that made every Bikini Bottomite in the vicinity turn on SpongeBob in the end. However, in the episode Driven to Tears, he manages to give Patrick a taste of his anger.
Dad, I worked my whole life for this! You don't deserve this!
So, we all know that SpongeBob still hasn't gotten his driver's license, right? Like, even after all these years, there's just something he can't grasp about driving a boat. And if you've ever failed at something more than a few times repeatedly, you know how frustrating that can be. You just can't understand why you're failing, or what makes you fail in the first place. So you keep doing it with the blind hope that one day you will succeed. Someone once said to me, doing the same thing over and over and over again while expecting things to change is the definition of insanity, which honestly perfectly describes SpongeBob. So imagine when your closest friend steps in to try that thing and aces it on the first try. Oh, and not only did he ace it, he also says this right to your face.
Do you want me to give you lessons?
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah, Patrick has been rubbing the fact that he has a driver's license in SpongeBob's face for the entire episode. And he still has the audacity to say, "Why are you getting so mad about it?" He really is good at gaslighting people, I'll give him that. So it was really satisfying when SpongeBob called him out for it, and ripped away his license. I expected SpongeBob to at least punch him in the face there. But hey, at least he said it all. Unfortunately, since SpongeBob throws the piece of the license out of the car, now the police chase them down the road to the point they all end up crashing into the jail itself. Patrick actually gets a 90-day prison sentence for littering, which he didn't deny. However, SpongeBob is too kind of a person in this episode again. He somehow decides that he shouldn't lash out at Patrick in the first place since they're best friends who should always support each other. So he admits he's the one who did it, and he ended up serving the sentence himself. Patrick did technically lose his license and throw it out of his boat, only because he didn't understand the concept of fuel though. Man, if only SpongeBob had let Patrick take that jail time, that would have been the perfect ending for this episode. However, when it comes to punishment, I think we can all agree that one of the best punishments for Patrick happened in the episode Sing a Song for Patrick. So one day Patrick read an ad from a comic book. It was one of those recording companies that wanted to buy your poem or your lyric for $100 and then make a song out of it. Now, Patrick is really keen on the idea, and he wastes no time writing one at SpongeBob's place. And right in the middle of it, he gets a flashback to what happened the last time he wrote a poem in elementary school.
Roses are blue, violets are red. I have to go to the bathroom.
To be fair, it's not a bad poem for a kid. It's just that he made it for the wrong occasion. Still, it made Patrick a bit anxious about what would happen if everyone hated his poem this time. But hey, he did manage to write one. To this day, I'm still wondering what he put inside that envelope. Anyway, the recording company did pay $100 for it and turned it into a song, even though it cost them way more in production value. And yes, the song was lethal to say the least. It's not that it sounds bad or anything, everything in the vicinity just dies or at least gets damaged when the song plays. So you know what, let's put this thing on the radio even if it means we do something illegal like hijacking the radio station's frequency. And man oh man, it was a Metal Gear level weapon of mass destruction. If there's one thing Bikini Bottomites are good at, it's turning this chance into a riot scene. It's one of those rare occasions when I don't really mind that they're being jerks. And you know what's better than violently punching someone in the face? Yup, punching someone in the feelings with their biggest life trauma.
Ready! Uh-oh.
By the way, I just realized something. Could it be that the reason why people let Patrick go so often is because they just know, even if they gave him a good scolding for it, Patrick would likely just take it smiling? He's too dumb to the point he's just, I don't know, insufferable. And if you know one thing about trying to punish insufferable people, it often hurts you more than it hurts them. So yeah, they took the easy way out. And before we get into what I think is the most satisfying, deserved moment for Patrick, I do have one honorable mention first. It's just a short moment, so I think it's not enough to get a full cover. Remember the episode Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 3? One day, SpongeBob and Patrick get a mission to watch over the Mermalair while Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy go on a vacation. And of course, they touch every single thing in there, even though they were specifically told not to. First, Patrick defrosts Man Ray's tartar sauce cage, which then gives Man Ray the opportunity to convince them to fully release him. But they still get the control to his tickle belt to control the situation. This leads to a pretty funny segment where they try to teach Man Ray to be good, where of course, Patrick always finds a way to mess things up.
Aren't you Patrick Star?
Yep.
And this is your ID.
Yep.
I mean, we already know that Man Ray is faking, and they're practically doing nothing to make him a good person. But even then, if I was in Man Ray's position, I would crash out too. That's why he does this to Patrick. It really is deserved. I mean, Man Ray was loose in the first place because of Patrick, so that'll teach him something. Or at least I hope it does. So for the final and best moment of Patrick getting a taste of his own actions for being a gaslighter, yeah, you guessed it, it's the episode Dumped. This story starts with SpongeBob playing tag with Gary when Patrick comes over to join them.
What's with Gary? He sounds like a motorboat.
Now, it's all fun and games. I mean, it's like one of your best friends comes to your house and then your cat starts liking them, sitting on their lap and getting some pets. There's nothing wrong with that. However, Gary didn't stop there because he wouldn't let go of Patrick at all. He was still clinging to Patrick that night, which made SpongeBob let Gary have a sleepover at Patrick's rock. Even when the next morning comes, Gary is still playing with Patrick. And then Patrick got to boast about how fun their night was and how Gary would follow him no matter where he went. But when SpongeBob's the one who does it, Gary doesn't chase him. Now guys, please don't do this. Please don't go to your best friend's house and play with their pet and then ask if you could bring the pet back to your place for a sleepover without your best friend coming along. Kinda weird. Not to mention boasting about how fun it is all while playing with them and leaving your best friend alone. Man, that's just heartbreaking, okay? It's only natural for SpongeBob to get a little bit annoyed by it. He starts baiting Gary for attention, doing everything to the point where it feels like he's the one begging for attention. And wouldn't you know it, Patrick doesn't even care in the slightest. He doesn't notice how SpongeBob feels and what he's trying to do. Heck, he doesn't even look in SpongeBob's direction. But then, in true Patrick fashion, when SpongeBob gets fed up with it and takes Gary back by force, he does what he does best. He gaslights him.
Gary knows who he wants to go with. Now I suggest you put him down and let him choose.
Like, man, you can't say that. Even if Gary does want to play with you, there are better ways to handle this situation because, after all, Gary is SpongeBob's pet. Then again, Patrick couldn't care less about that stuff. Gary still wants to play with him, so he takes that as a win over SpongeBob. SpongeBob would later spend the rest of the episode trying to cope with his feelings of losing Gary, trying to get replacements like Larry and Rex, while reassuring himself that he doesn't need Gary in his life anymore. But even SpongeBob couldn't lie to his own feelings. He finally embraces that he still wants Gary by his side and pleads for one last time when Patrick comes over to borrow his washing machine. What's crazy is that even Patrick should understand how bad it's been for SpongeBob over the last few days. And maybe to act with a little bit of empathy. But no, he just goes for the killer line.
You have to stop living in the past.
Luckily, it all leads up to one of the best plot twists in the entire show. Gary only clings to Patrick because he wants a piece of cookie from his pocket. Right after that, Gary just goes back to SpongeBob as if nothing ever happened. And that gives us one of the best feelings we can get from a SpongeBob episode. Truly deserved. At the end of the day, I still think we're lacking in episodes where Patrick gets what he deserves for the things he's doing. Patrick causes so many problems, especially for SpongeBob, and yet he only gets punished for 1 out of, maybe every 10 crimes that he does. Like, if I could get a penny for every time Patrick goes unpunished, I'd be a millionaire. What a shame. Now, I'm not saying he's a bad person, but it's definitely a hole in his character that unfortunately makes his character less likable, especially in the later seasons. Did I miss any episodes? I feel like I'm missing something. But you guys will tell me in the comments, right? But hey, it's not all doom and gloom with Patrick, because he still did a lot of great things for the show. One of which being breaking the fourth wall. I just covered every kind of breaking the fourth wall joke that SpongeBob ever made in my last video, and Patrick got some really good ones in it. Definitely watch that video next if you like this one. You won't be disappointed. I'll see you on the next dive.